Hello, historians, and welcome to the next part of this unit as we talk about the African empires and the Americas, empires of the Americas. And in this particular guided notes series, we're looking at the people of Northern America, those empires in Northern America, and the empires in Mesoamerica. So this is guided notes lesson 3.3. All right, so let's get going. And again, for this particular unit, hopefully you should be able to compare the key economic, cultural, and political characteristics of the major civilizations. Particularly so, I'll be focusing more on the Mesoamerican and South American empires. Okay, and I think you'll be able to do that if you are really successful with your project. So if you're able to do your project well and have that persuasiveness about your empire, that in itself is actually making that comparison and looking at the various empires to see which one stands out the most in that sense in terms of their economic, their political, and cultural characteristics, right? And then we're going to look specifically in terms of Meso and South American civilizations, particularly the Olmecs, the Zapotec, and the Chauvin. Okay, we're going to touch on the Zapotec and Chauvin, but more so go in depth with the Olmec. Okay. All right, so these are your vocabulary words: potlatches, adobe, and the long count. And we're going to talk more about these throughout the lesson here. So make sure that you have those listed on your guided notes, okay? All right, so your first question is to describe the Hopewell Mounds. And the Hopewell Mounds were those mounds created by the Eastern Woodland tribes, okay? Those tribes that you see here that's associated here, okay? And as you see here, they're settled in the Ohio Valley region. And most of those mounds, as you see here, that were left behind could have been possibly for burial. A lot of the mounds are in the shape of animals. It is found that the burial mounds also reveal that the Hopewell tribes were also very skilled artists. So if you want to really describe the mounds, we know that they were possibly used for burial. Some are in the shape of animals. They found jewelry, tools, and weapons in those mounds as well. Okay. So that's question number one. All right. So question number two, the question here asks, what's the most important crop for the Mississippians? So we're talking about the Mississippians, which were cultures here along the Mississippi River. All right, so in Edpuzzle, I would love for you to tell me what is something that's key about all of these tribes. If you notice, I just mentioned the Hopewell, and the Hopewell also was along a certain area, the Ohio River Valley, right? Here we have the Mississippi River Valley. In the African kingdoms, a lot of those West African empires were along the Niger River and the Senegal River. What is a key element between all of these tribes in terms of where they settle? Put it in Edpuzzle and I'll give you the answer in a minute. All right, so the key characteristics for these tribes, as you'll notice, is that most of them settle or establish their territory or their empire along rivers or some type of body of water. So that's a key element to look at in terms of all of these cultures, okay? So again, full-time agriculture is what made this culture prosperous. Corn was their main important crop. And you're going to find that in most of these Amerindian or Native American cultures, most of their biggest crop and their most important crop is going to be corn, okay? As you see here, they've developed a complex and very extensive culture. So their culture went as far as parts of Minnesota today, which is up here, right? Many of the large settlements structured around a ceremonial mound. So just like the Hopewell, they had a similar um, mound system, right? Possibly for burial. Okay. All right. So this is people of the Northwest. Okay. So the people of the Northwest are particularly, and this is your question number 3. The people of the Northwest are particularly today remembered for this, which is totem poles. Okay, so if you see this, and most totem poles, as you see here, very much so represent nature, right? And that is key for a lot of our North American, Native American cultures, right? So they have something similar to our African empires, right? In terms of their religion. And if you remember what that word is, put it in Edpuzzle. All right, so if you mention animism, that is correct. Just like in West Africa, here in Northern Africa, and particularly here in the Northwest, as you see with the totem pole, they emulate or they worship the natural environment. So as you see here, there's birds, the sea, the sky, things like that are worshipped and revered as gods or goddesses or deities, as they practice animism, and also they also practice ancestral worship as well. Okay, so they also had festive gatherings, which was called potlatches. Okay, and the chief of the clan would display the material goods of the clan, and that's the way that they would preserve their culture, right? All right, awesome. So this is the Southwest here, okay? And question number 4 says, what caused the Hohokam to abandon their communities? Okay, and of course, if you look here, if you look at this map, you see here, this is the Chaco Canyon, this is Mesa Verde, this is our parts of Arizona today, right? If you look at this map, what do you think is in this region here? So if you said desert, right, then you'll be correct. This is a desert area, okay? So because this is a desert area, all of those climate changes is what caused this particular tribe to abandon their community. They were farmers, as you see here, and they used extensive irrigation systems to water their crops and grow their crops. But as the climate changed, and possibly through desertification, right? As the climate changed, then they had to move towards some place where they can get water, okay? So that's the reason why they probably, more than likely, they probably abandoned their home, all right? Awesome. Okay, so here's more about the people of the Southwest, right? And you have adobes. Possibly you've heard about adobe or the seasoning, right? You probably heard about the adobe, the seasoning, but in this case, we're not talking about seasoning. We're talking about homes, okay? And these are adobes here, okay, and here. And adobes, they were a type of home, permanent house that's built particularly by the Amerindians in the Southwest, okay? As you see here, there was sun-dried bricks, and it helped them to stay cool during the day and then to also stay warm at night, okay? Because again, this is the desert area, so they were taking a lot of heat in the day that would help them to stay cool in the day. But during the night, when it got colder in the desert, then they will be able to stay warm. And as you see here, they also raised corn. As I mentioned, corn is going to be one of those apparent main crops for a lot of the Meso and North American tribes, okay? All right, so question number 6, what was the main food source of the people of the Great Plains? The people of the Great Plains, which is between the Rocky Mountains and the Mississippi River, was buffalo, wild buffalo. Okay, as you see here, there was no horses in North America because horses are not indigenous to the West, the western part of the world. Okay, so a lot of Plains people, the Plains tribes, they hunted by foot, or they would hunt buffalo. Okay, and that was their main source of food. Okay. All right, so here we have also talking about the Great Plains. Okay, so not only did they hunt the buffalo for their meat, but they also used their hides, their skin, to make clothing, and they also used it to build these cone-shaped tents, which is your answer for number 7, called teepees. And that's what a teepee is. This was their home. This was a tent that they would use to live in. Okay, and it was made of those buffalo hides, or the buffalo skins. Okay. And for question number 8, what was the purpose of the dog to the Plains people? So dogs would actually help them carry their goods, such as buffalo meat, but they also use dogs as protection and hunting and as a food source. Okay, so not only would they use dogs as their protection and for hunting and so forth, they also use them for food and to help them carry their goods, such as the buffalo meat. Okay, and as you see here, the Plains people were also skilled in different things like pottery and stone, and for their tools and so forth. Question number 9, what caused the life on the Great Plains to become more difficult? Again, here we have different climate changes, right? And also external forces. In the 1400s, if you look at that time period, this is when exploration happened. So Europeans are now coming into the Americas, right? So now with these new people coming into the Americas, they are coming in and claiming land that they encountered, right? And now those people that have occupied those the Plains people, they're now being pushed further west from their homes. Okay, so not only that, then we have also a series of droughts in the area that made farming practically impossible to do. So they're getting pushed westward, and they're having climate issues, which makes it very difficult for this, this Amerindian culture to survive. All right. Hey historians, thanks for tuning in. This is the end of the Northern American empires, and I decided to cut this part short so that the information wouldn't be too long. So this is part 1. Please move on to the next part, which is part 2, which will go into the Mesoamerican empires, and that will finish the rest of your guided notes. This was a pretty long series or information, so I wanted to make sure that I split it in half so that you can get the information for the Northern American empires and then focus on the Mesoamerican empires. So again, to make sure, this is the first half of your guided notes, and then you're going to tune into the Mesoamerican empires, which is the second half of those guided notes for 3.3. all right, so tune in, and I will see you on the flip side. All right, have a good one.